Canada has unfortunately become a laughingstock for the world, but specifically Justin Trudeau. When he goes on to, national platforms, international platforms and says, I'm a proud feminist and it's wrong that America has, elected again a man instead of a woman leader. That's just mental to say. Trudeau, you're a dude. You're the prime minister. What do you mean? Like, you should then step aside and let a woman fill your shoes, be the job of the prime minister so that you can just fill a quota? Like, that's absolutely ridiculous. So that is something that he's really said. And then also the tariffs. We have to talk about the tariffs because we're being made fun of around the world. And it's not good because Trudeau keeps saying we're going to clap back. And now this newly elected liberal premier on the East Coast is saying that she's willing to go to the mat and fight Donald Trump on the tariffs. No, you're not. Absolutely not. Donald Trump doesn't even know your name. He doesn't care about you. That's why he's never going to answer your stupid little threats, Premier of the East Coast, that nobody even cares about. But hey, who am I to say that? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I want to encourage you all to hit the like button, subscribe, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting off with this Fox News clip where they're just absolutely ripping apart Justin Trudeau.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tried to hit back at President-elect Trump, but instead he managed to insult you, all of you Americans out there. You may remember at a recent meeting, Trump reportedly suggested to Trudeau that Canada become the 51st state if the country couldn't handle his border tariffs. Trump then doubled down on the jab, labeling the Prime Minister the, quote, governor of Canada. Here's Trudeau's attempt at a counterpunch.
We were supposed to be on a steady, if difficult sometimes, march towards progress. And yet, just a few weeks ago, the United States voted for a second time to not elect its first woman president. Everywhere, women's rights and women's progress is under attack, overtly and subtly. But I want you to know that I am, and always will be, a proud feminist. You will always have an ally in me and in my government.
Well, he seems very proud of himself right there. I mean, Kennedy, could a counterpunch get any lamer?
No, I watched that and I went, wow, Justin Trudeau. What,
Oh, no.
what brand of tampons do you use?
Oh, no.
It's like, my goodness. Ooh, I'm trembling with fear. Please don't invade us with your soy boyness.
Lauren, okay, so the Canadian Prime Minister.
I love this. I love it so much that mainstream or massive media platforms in America are picking apart Justin Trudeau, saying the things that we all say amongst ourselves in the comments on X. We make videos about this. We talk about this ridiculousness, around a campfire, having some beers, whatever it is. I love it. But at the same time, I mean, we are also at the this joke comes at our expense. And this is something that needs to be very much differentiated, is that Trudeau, even though he is the Prime Minister of Canada, unfortunately, he does not represent Canadians or Canadians' values. Trudeau is this weird, ostracized person that just so happens to be our leader, but he's a piece of garbage. In Canada, if we could, we would have voted him off the island a long time ago, but somehow they keep blocking any attempts at new elections, and so we're stuck with them just a little bit longer. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments about that clip. And then here is the actual speech of him saying, I'm a proud feminist. Kind of weird, but...
No, it shouldn't be that way. It wasn't supposed to be that way. We were supposed to be on a steady, if difficult sometimes, march towards progress. And yet, just a few weeks ago, the United States voted for a second time to not elect its first woman president. Everywhere, women's rights and women's progress is under attack, overtly and subtly. But I want you to know that I am, and always will be, a proud feminist. you will always have an ally in me and in my...
Shut the hell up, dude. Proud feminist. Nobody freaking cares. Nobody cares. And then, so that's one speech he gave. And then he gave a similar speech with a bit of a different spin at the Chamber of Commerce here. Let's take a look. This is in response to the 25% tariffs.
President-elect Trump got elected on a commitment to make life better and more affordable for Americans. And I think people south of the border are beginning to wake up to the reality that tariffs on everything from Canada would make life a lot more expensive for Americans. So that's part of the argument. The other part is we will, of course, as we did 8 years ago, respond to unfair tariffs in a number of ways. And we're still looking at the right ways to respond. But our responses to the unfair steel and aluminum tariffs were what ended up lifting those tariffs last time. It wasn't that Americans were paying more for their steel and aluminum, although that was annoying to some people in the States. It was the fact that we put tariffs on bourbon and Harley Davidsons and playing cards and Heinz ketchup and cherries and a number of other things that were very carefully targeted because they were politically impactful to the president's party and colleagues, was how we were able to punch back in a way that was actually felt by Americans.
We should not be striving to punch back against America. I think that this entire situation has been completely blown out of proportion. Canadians don't consent to this. Canadians don't want this. The only people that are pushing for this trade war are these greasy politicians. You saw Justin Trudeau push or have some resistance against it. Now let's take a look at the witch of the Wicked Witch of the North. There you go. That's her name. Chrystia Freeland.
Effective outreach work. We are taking a Team Canada approach. A number of premiers spoke out strongly in favor of a robust Canadian response to unjustified tariffs. Some premiers proactively identified products that their provinces produce and export to the United States and which the U.S. relies on, and which should be considered as part of the Canadian response. This included some critical minerals and metals. We are taking a Team Canada approach. We know that this is a moment when Canada needs to be strong, smart, and united. And we know that when Canada is strong, smart, and united, when we play as a team, we can be effective and we will win.
There is no winning or losing when it comes to this. I think everybody that's involved with the tariffs and the trade war is going to be a loser. This is only going to hurt us, right? People that are buying and selling goods, people that are working for a living, unlike these politicians, are working to make our lives more difficult. And now to add another wrench into the mix, you have the East Coast newly elected Liberal premier who's saying, yeah, let's fight back and stand our ground, which is crazy. I can't believe that these liberals are the ones that are saying we should be fighting against America. Let's take a look.
Up 25% tariffs on Canadian goods. Some of Canada's premiers are responding with fighting words, like Ontario's Doug Ford, who's threatening to cut off Ontario energy to the 1.5 million Americans who rely on it to power their homes.
We're sending a message to the U.S. You come and attack Ontario, you attack livelihoods of people of Ontario and Canadians. We're going to use every tool in our toolbox to defend Ontarians and Canadians across the border.
Donald Trump fired right back.
That's okay if he does that, that's fine, but the United States is subsidizing Canada. It's truly a subsidy, and we shouldn't have to do that.
He wasn't clear, but it seems like that's a reference to the American trade deficit with Canada, which was about $90 billion last year. Canada supplies about 85% of U.S. electricity imports, plus more oil than any other country. Although the premiers are divided on how to best handle Trump's threat, many are helping to create a list of possible retaliatory trade measures, including the newly elected Premier of New Brunswick. Premier Susan Holt joins us now. Thank you so much for joining us, Premier, and congratulations. First chance we've had a chance to speak to you since you've been elected.
Thanks very much, Mercedes.
What a time to become a brand new premier and be facing this scenario with President-elect Trump to the south. 92% of New Brunswick's exports go to the United States. A lot on the table here for you. You've said that you're ready to play hardball and to hit them where it hurts when it comes back to Donald Trump. What kind of retaliation are you looking at, and what kind of message do you want to send to Donald Trump?
There's a two-front approach here. We think that these tariffs are going to be really damaging to the U.S. economy. And I shouldn't say we think, we know that these tariffs are going to hurt Americans, American jobs, American homes. And so I don't think that that's what Donald Trump wants. And we're going to make that case to him, as we have been to his governors and senators and to the business leaders in the U.S. who share our concerns about the damage that this is going to do to the American economy, as well as the New Brunswick and the Canadian economy. So we're going to be making that case, but we're preparing for the worst.
What exactly is on the table?
Well, right now, everything is on the table because we're doing our analysis to figure out what could we retaliate with that would have the least impact to New Brunswickers, but the most impact to the U.S. and particularly to those places that the Trump administration is most sensitive to. So we're looking at all of the different things that we import in from the U.S. as well as the critical things that we send to them to prepare a strong retaliatory strategy that we will have ready in case, and we hope we won't have to use it.
And obviously there's a difference between retaliatory tariffs, which would be tariffing things coming in, versus cutting off the supplies. I just want to be clear there. Are you only looking at retaliatory tariffs, or are you also looking at something similar to what Doug Ford has said, which would be cutting off, for example, New Brunswick energy going to the U.S.?
Yeah, well, we don't want to cut off our nose to spite our face. There would be significant trouble caused to New Brunswickers if we stopped selling products into the U.S. The tariffs that Trump has suggested are already going to make that more challenging. But cutting off our largest customer means that we're going to be looking for a new place to send 320,000 barrels of petroleum products a day. I think that that's not an approach that's going to work well for our province. And so we're looking at a different approach.
You met with the Prime Minister last week to talk about this. Are you confident in Ottawa's plan and perhaps more importantly, their ability to deliver it quickly, considering how soon these tariffs are scheduled to hit?
I think Ottawa has responded in a really serious way and put together $1 billion defense package to strengthen our borders that I think is pretty comprehensive. And certainly it won't come as a surprise to any of your viewers to know that I have a lot of confidence in Minister LeBlanc and his ability to charm and persuade folks to the outcome that we want. And him alongside Minister Freeland and the Prime Minister, I think, are using a lot of the tools that we need to get this done. So we're supportive of the comprehensive defense and border plan that they put together. We're looking to get into the next level of detail because we're looking for some of that investment to come to New Brunswick, and particularly to our largest port, the Port of St. John, that has been seeing a lot of growth over the last couple years, and there's more and more containers coming through every day. And so our current CBSA installation is starting to feel it and needs to grow in response to all of those containers that by and large come into the Port of St. John, hop on the CPKC rail line and head into the U.S. So we're looking forward to participating and getting the benefit of a strong strategy that the federal government's put together.
Do you feel that there's sufficient security at the Canadian border and sufficient security in the Port of St. John right now, examining all of those containers that are coming in and going to the U.S. to know what's actually in them?
I think there's an opportunity for improvement because of the growth we've seen.
Okay, we're literally as bad as it possibly gets. The CBSA has admitted that they can't even scan more than 1% of all shipments that come into Canada. So that's a massive problem. They've also admitted that not a single thing ever gets scanned by the rail system, by Canadian Border Services. That's a massive problem. So it's quite literally only uphill from here, but leave it up to the Liberals to probably mess it up even further.
Seen such significant growth in the port of St. John in particular that it is the right time to grow the CBSA resources alongside it. I think the border that we share with Maine, where there are 17 different ports of entry, there have been improvements and fortifications made across that border over the years. We actually just have a new bridge up in Edmundston and some state-of-the-art facilities up there. And so we're always watching to learn how are unwanted goods and unwanted people crossing the border in both directions, and what new approaches and new technologies and investments can we make to continue to have the kind of strong, peaceful, and secure border that we have long shared with Maine, and make sure that extends to our really active and growing port.
You mentioned Dominic LeBlanc, of course, a very prominent New Brunswicker, was at the table with the Prime Minister and Donald Trump down in Mar-a-Lago. I always kind of think of him as like the schmoozer in chief for the government. He's the guy who can have the scotch and cigars. He's also the public safety minister. But that comes to how you talk to and deal with Donald Trump. Have you talked to Minister LeBlanc at all about this approach and when to be tough with Donald Trump versus when some say you have to go and kiss the ring?
We have had these conversations, and look, Dominic LeBlanc is a master negotiator, and he is a great person to have in the room for any of those tough conversations, because he can go both ways, right? We need to show the U.S. that we're a strong partner with a heavily integrated economy, but that we're not going to be pushed around. And if I think there's lots of opportunity for us to get to a place where these tariffs don't come into place, but we're absolutely ready to react should they be. And Dominic can walk both of those lines and make sure it's clear the impact that this will have on the other side, while working on the deals and the solutions that will prevent the tariffs from being put in place.
Premier Holt, thank you so much for making time for us today.
Yeah, the fact that, she's come out and said that she wants to distance herself from Justin Trudeau, even though she's a Liberal. So she has the right idea right off the hop to distance herself and not want anything to do, or as little to do with Trudeau, even though she's a Liberal. That is something that everyone can agree is good. But then she sits here and she praises on national television other failed Liberals like LeBlanc. Like, that's just not good. The entire Liberal ideology, the structure, the pillars of liberalism right now is what's got us here in the first place. Weak ass borders, woke policies plaguing our schools, billion-dollar deficits. Nothing makes any sense right now in Canada, which is why it's all toppling, which is why you have things like Fox News at the start of this video ridicule Justin Trudeau. And that's not the only news outlet, and that's not the only country's news outlet that is doing the same thing. You've seen similar things by Australia, by UK, by India, all attack Justin Trudeau, which is not something that Canada does. Canada doesn't pick on the Luxembourg prime minister. Like, who cares? Canada is worried about Canada and America. That's kind of it. And then Canada's relations with other countries. So the fact that other media outlets from other countries, just for the fun of it, pick on Justin Trudeau goes to show how big of a laughingstock he really is. But hey, that's my own personal opinion. I would love to know yours. And this is the end of the video. So I highly recommend you guys hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel and turn those little post notification buttons, little bell notifications, so you can actually be notified of upcoming videos. Because today is going to be an absolutely crazy day. We got the fall economic update. We got all the speculation of a cabinet shuffle. So you're not going to want to miss a single beat or a single update. I'll see you later. Bye for now.